Steven, you're never going to guess what's happening. The neighbor's cutting down the tree next door, and the one that's leaning over our 30-foot fence. I hope they don't damage our fence, because we need all the height that we can get out of that fence. But okay, bye.
I think the fence is okay, Steven. I think the fence did not get chopped down any feet, unless they took off like 8 feet from it, and now it's only a 10-foot fence.
Well, the fence is taller than the tree, right? It's like 34 feet.
Yeah, 40-year-old tree out there that was leaning more on my side of the property than my neighbor's side of the property.
It was literally touching your building. This giant tree. What kind of tree was it? Maple?
I think it's a maple. Well, it has the propellers, the helicopters. What does helicopters?
I think they're maples, yeah.
And those are what they're going to be. They're a pain in the ass. They clog up your drains and shit. But the tree was literally hanging over my property more than anything, and it just, like, if I was to park my car in there, it would just get shit on. Like, if you park your car in our do not park box, it just gets bombarded by birds.
Oh, every time I wash my car, every single time I pull up to the factory and I walk out of work at 5 o'clock and there's just bird shit everywhere on the car. It never fails.
Well, I was like, can you, the guy told me that they were going to trim the tree, and he said trim, and I was like, can you make sure that anything on my side of the fence isn't really there?
You're like, can you just chop it down?
Well, I'm not anti-trees, and Matisyahu would, sing chop it down, but I just feel like if it's leaning on my side and it's hanging over, and in the summer the leaves and branches are hanging low, that it's interfering with my property.
This has to be, I'm bad with measurements, but give or take, 50 feet tall tree?
No. There's no way that's a 50-foot tree, Steven.
Oh, God damn it.
That's not a 50-foot tree.
What do you think? Go measure
it's as tall as the building. Maybe 40 feet? You're probably at least 10 feet off.
All right, ballpark is what I'm saying.
Probably 40 feet if this building is as tall as it is.
It's taller than the building.
Let's see. It's slightly taller than the building. The building is probably 34 feet. I don't know how to measure that. Maybe I'll get to the top of the roof. We'll get a hose. We'll take a hose that's 50 feet tall and see how. I have a hose. We could run the hose outside and see how far the hose goes down.
You know what? Do it right now in the middle of the podcast.
Yeah, let's do it. Steven's going away next week to Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, you excited for Florida?
I am excited. I'm excited because it won't be 97 degrees with 100% humidity for once.
What's the weather supposed to? Is it going to rain?
As of right now, it looks like partly cloudy skies for most of the week and 60, 70 degrees every day with a high. So not bad at all. 50s at night. Perfect weather for me. Maybe hoodie weather. But the unfortunate part is, as you can tell, I'm a little under the weather, but thankfully it's before the trip and not during the trip. Sucks working like this.
Yeah.
But so if I clear my throat a couple times during this podcast, my apologies. The phlegm is all over the place.
What are you looking forward to? Flying with your baby?
That's what I'm not looking forward to, is taking a 6-month-old to Disney and that 2-hour flight. If she does happen to cry, it's not a big deal. Half the people are wearing headphones, noise canceling on top of that. It's not like it's a red-eye flight. She's a newborn. It's kind of expected. Again, it's not a red-eye flight to like California. That's 6 hours away. So totally different story. But yes, I am extremely nervous about how she's going to do on a plane, because obviously it's her first plane ride ever. And really the only reason we're going is because my family, every 5 years, they do a big trip to Disney, and this happens to be the 5th year. So we don't want to miss it. We're not just going on our own. We're going with about 20 other people. So it should be fun.
Did you know that there's some new rules at Disney?
What are the rules?
They're doing away with the lines altogether.
Yes and no, because you still have to wait in line when you're in that queue. But yeah, there's no true line for certain rides. It's not every ride.
I thought they said, and the new rules will be that for those rides, you will all get a time, and that's when you show back up to do it, and no longer will you be waiting in line for 4 hours.
Yeah, you'll be in a virtual queue, basically.
Well, it makes sense. Do you know why
But you'll
they're
still
doing
be
it?
waiting in line when that time hits. You know?
Yeah, but it won't be like 3 hours of waiting.
Correct. Yeah.
It'll be like 5 minutes of waiting to get there.
Dude, I will say, last time we went 2-3 years ago, I waited in 0 lines. We had it down. This is before they did this virtual queue, but we had it to the point where we were going from ride to ride, waiting in 0 lines because they had that Genie Plus or whatever it's called. My wife knows more about all this stuff. She's the planner.
Oh, so you spend more money because you're special like that? You can spend more money to get Genie Plus?
I think so, yeah. And then you can even pay more money to go on a ride right away, like the big rides, like Tron. You can spend like $20 to ride it immediately again.
Oh man, they
It's
just
all
want
a
to
cash grab at the end of the day.
Well,
It's a
yeah. Well,
business.
why do you? Why? Yeah. Well, it's a business that gouges. But why do you think they did away with the lines so that people can go spend more money while they're in the park?
Of course.
Because if you're in line, you're not spending money.
But it's also helping out the actual person that's waiting in line too. They're not waiting 4 hours for a ride.
Well, yes, but they think that will make people happier and then buy more food. Look, if someone isn't waiting in line and they buy an extra soda and popcorn, that's more revenue just because they're no longer stuck in a line for 2.5 hours.
Yep.
Anyway, whatever. Fuck Disney. Did I just say that? I love Disney. I can't wait to go back to Disney again one day if I ever have kids. I'll be like, no, we're not going to Disney, kid.
Have fun winning that argument.
Wah. Cry me a river, kid. Learn.
You're going to be such
no
a fun
Disney
father.
for you. Yeah, exactly. And because Steven is going to be in Disney next week, I'm going to have a special guest on. Hi guys, it's Mickey Mouse. Thank you for joining the RAWtalk podcast. I'm here with Jared.
Is this
That's right, Mickey.
the South Park Minnie Mouse?
No, that's right. Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse, because we have to get it right.
Oh,
Steamboat
royalty
Willie
free
Mickey
now, right?
Mouse.
Yeah.
Royalty free. That's right, Jared. It's royalty free. I'll be sleeping with Minnie Mouse later. Is Minnie his sister or his girlfriend?
I believe his girlfriend.
And who's their dog? Pluto?
Yes.
Or
Pluto,
Goofy?
not Goofy.
Ah, shit. I still get that one wrong. Anyway, you know what came in the mail from Nikon this week?
Lots and lots of gear.
Yeah, because Nikon hates us so much that I got a Z9, a Plena, an 85-12, a 24-70, a 70-200, and I asked for a 51.8 to use on lower end cameras, hopefully like the Z6 III when that comes out in Luzerna for that special
Wait,
trip.
do you know something about the Z6 III?
I still know nothing about anything. And if there's a company that won't be able to get gear out in time, it's Nikon. They just have more trouble than it seems like every other company for whatever reason. But that's okay. I wanted to have the Nikon kit here because I want to shoot it a little bit more. And there's other lenses. Like I plan on going and shooting tomorrow some lacrosse with this Tamron. What is it? A 50 to 500?
150 to
500. That thing weighs like 10 pounds, but I'm going to take
It's a
that out to
tank.
the lacrosse field.
For sure, yeah.
So I have to set up the Z9. I don't think we have a save load setting for that camera.
I don't believe we do, no. Not that you changed much on that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to go through and you know how the autofocus, you have to keep picking and deciding for each moment. But I'm looking forward to using that. And this episode, well, anyway, so I appreciate that Nikon sent out that entire kit because we had to send everything back, and I sold all of my older my older F mount glass a while ago, and we needed some stuff in here to make sure that I have gear because with like Viltrox and Laowa and all these other companies that are making their fourth party lenses for the Z mount, I need to have, I mean, other than the Z8 that we had, I just wanted to have a setup here to go out and use.
Well, we had our buddy Jeff over recently visit the factory, and I was showing him the gear room, and we have basically every brand on different shelves. So it's, here's the Canon shelf with all these lenses and bodies and whatever. Here's the Sony shelf, same thing. And then we get to Nikon, and I'm like, here's the lonely Nikon shelf where there's literally a Z8, and that's basically it, minus some of your older cameras, like a D3S and like a D3500 or something. But yeah, we had to send everything back, and that shelf was looking very empty and lonely, and now we can fill it back up.
We can fill it back up. I just have to take the stuff off. I also charged up my batteries for my D3S, and I'm charging a D2X battery, but that should be the same battery as the D2X.
Wait, isn't your D3S on the shelf behind you?
Yeah, I moved it.
Great.
Yeah, I took the battery out and then I was like, oh shit, Steven told me not to move anything on the set. But I'm like, but this is the camera I want to go out and shoot with. I just want to shoot, man. I need to go out and shoot with it. And I'm even deciding whether or not I should charge up the D3500 and go super old school, put a 35-1.8 on it just to show people, again, if you know what you're doing, you can get great results. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to get great results. And the gear matters in some situations, but in the right hands, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day what picture you get, because a good picture is a good picture is a good picture is a good picture no matter how you slice it.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's just some fucking broken record.
The D3500 we use for the whole 3 shots or less series, just to showcase, like you just said, you can get away with really any camera setup for the most part, a cheap setup, a budget-friendly setup, and still get some pretty cool results.
Yeah, and that's why I'm looking forward to shooting some of these older cameras again.
Yeah, you're taking a D3S out.
Hey, wait, Steven, breaking news. Hi, Dad, you're on the podcast.
Buenos dias, todo el mundo.
Yeah, because people know Spanish. I have a very large Spanish contingent of listeners on the podcast.
Well, it's time they learned. I just said good morning to all of the world.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
We're going to get back to doing the show now.
It's very impressive, but I got the car in 10 minutes and when it's done, it's done. They'll let me know. It could be as early as tomorrow. It could be as late as Monday, depending on obviously what needs to be done, which is TBD, to be determined. Go back to your audio and have a good day.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Adios.
Oh, adios, he says.
Adios.
Au revoir. No, my dad was saying that his Tesla heater stopped heating and he had to go drop the car off and they'll take care of it.
Does your dad feel the need to call you for that, and he can't just like send a simple text like "car's gonna be fixed, done"?
Yeah, he won't send text like that.
You guys are so similar.
He doesn't send text like that. It just sometimes you got to just call. I mean, he was just letting me know he dropped his car off. And
is that why you're so big on the phone? Because your dad's so big, like with calling?
No, I just sometimes don't want to fucking just text. I want to actually talk to someone.
I know, it's 2024 and people prefer to text these days, I feel like.
Fuck those people. No, it's just like every once in a while. Look, I like texting too, but sometimes if you're going to sit in here and text back someone and it's 5 minutes and you've just texted 800 times, you could have just picked up the phone and talked to each other.
Of course, if it's a big conversation to be had, yeah, calling is the best option. But if it's a simple, hey, my car just got fixed, just want to let you know, instead of calling, hey, okay, cool, bye.
That's just what he wanted to do.
I'm saying you're like that too.
Yeah, because sometimes I just want to talk to people and hear humans in action and not just bullshit texts where there's no understanding or anything.
I feel you.
Anyway, he went to the Andrea Bocelli show last night. I got him tickets through a friend who was a producer for Bocelli, and then the concert was canceled when I was in December 7th was it, because I was coming home December 8th from Africa. That's why I couldn't go. But anyway, he said it was an incredible concert.
I always think of Step Brothers every time I hear that name.
Was Bocelli and Step Brothers?
The end, when they're at the Catalina wine mixer and they're jamming out on stage.
Are they? Oh,
yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to RAWtalk. The point of all of this is there's a lot of these Viltrox and Laowa lenses that are coming out that are autofocus and for the Z mount or for the E mount, and I should just go shoot different things with them, because the realization is that not everybody's going to buy a 50-1.2 or a 85-1.2, and they don't need that if they can get a $400, $500 other lens, which is kind of what Sigma and Tamron were 10, 15 years ago. Maybe these other companies have a jump start because their quality is going to be much better because the technology changes. And so I've got like a whatever Viltrox 85-1.8 and a 35-1.8 or something sitting over there in the corner that I need to go play with. And so I'll go play with them and then we'll see if we'll make videos about it or not.
I didn't realize a lot of those were autofocus. I thought most of those were manual focus.
They're all getting into autofocus now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're all reverse engineering.
I'm curious how they would do if we did dedicated lens reviews. Would they be just as big as something like, a Sony G Master review or a Nikon Z review?
Cheapest 85 Sony lens. I don't know.
When I started out, they're the kind of videos that I was watching. What can I buy that's cheap but good enough?
Let's move into the new gear stuff. since we're talking about gear. You've got Sigma lenses, Sony lenses, Fuji announcements. Let's start with the Sigma lenses, which we've done a video and a half of because the second one isn't out yet. But you want to talk about the two new lenses?
Sure. We've got the Sigma 500 5.6, the DGDNOS sports lens. I still question, why do they call it sports plural, not just sport? Kind of weird. And then we also have the Sigma 15mm DGDN fisheye, the diagonal fisheye, not a circular fisheye.
I'm tired.
Not a rectilinear.
Can we not call? Look, can we drop the word diagonal?
I question
it's a fisheye.
Why they even put that. I guess just to note that it's not circular, but to me, it's either fisheye or circular fisheye.
That's correct. It's
a fisheye covers the entire frame. Circular
correct.
Fisheye does not.
Correct. Fucking correct.
Yeah.
This diagonal idea is stupid. I've never heard it being used before until this. And I don't know if we said it in the video. Do I even say diagonal in the video?
You mentioned the difference between like what a fisheye is and a circular fisheye. I'm not sure if you actually say diagonal though.
Right, because I'm anti saying the diagonal like those people, like the Sigma people have been saying.
I don't think people will go to Alan's camera and be like, hey, do you have diagonal fisheyes? I think they'll say, hey, do you have a fisheye?
Or rectal linear.
Or it's both, where if you have like an 8 to 15 where it's circular at 8 or full frame at, 15.
15. Yeah, which Nikon had the 8 to 15. Canon had an 8 to 15, but there hasn't been. The reason we're talking about the 15 fisheye, and it's a 1.4 to boot, is that there hasn't been a native fisheye lens for Nikon, Canon, or Sony up to this point. And I'm not talking about the cheap manual focusing fisheye lenses.
You're
I'm
talking about mirrorless
actual
mounts.
Mirrorless fisheye. Yeah, but there's cheap ones that you can get, but they're not the real deal. And this is a real deal. It's a 1.4.
It's a monster
kind of overkill.
Too. It's a big, thick, chody boy. Yeah. What I want to bring up first with these lenses is the pricing. I will say Sigma is now starting to charge almost first-party native pricing for these lenses. Like the 500 5.6, they're asking $3,000 for that. The fisheye, which to me is a very niche specific lens, is $2,000. Opposed to other options on the market that are rectilinear, like their 14mm f1.4, that's wider, still a 1.4, and it's rectilinear, that's $1,600. So I question, are they starting to get to the point where they're not going to no longer be third-party brand? They're almost going to be side-by-side, coincide with, Sony, Nikon, maybe Canon one day.
I think they already do.
But I feel like Sigma has always been known to be a cheaper third-party lens manufacturer, just like Tamron. I think they're starting to up the ante is what I'm saying.
They more than up the ante. I remember being at my first Photokina, talking to the president of Sigma. They were saying that we are coming out with a new line of lenses. We've got contemporary, we've got art, and we've got sport. And our goal is to make the best. Fuck that. Our goal is to make the best lenses. And they did. Like, they set out to up their quality, and they're at a point where their quality does either rival some of the other Nikon, Canon, Sony lenses, or it's on par, or in Nikon's case, Tamron is making lenses that are being branded as Nikon.
Well, I still feel like Tamron, though, is still kind of a cheaper feeling lens for the most part. Even their higher end third-party lenses are still kind of cheap feeling. They don't really, there's a lot of missing elements, but where Sigma, they still give you the aperture ring, the 90-degree click intervals, like all of the professional features that a Sony G Master would give you, the high-end focus motors, the HLA motors. I feel like they're kind of really competing with that G Master, where Tamron is kind of like, hey, we're going to stay in our lane, but we're going to own it, and we're going to be, known for being cheaper, smaller, more travel-friendly, and more affordable to the average person, but we're going to stay in that lane and be okay about it.
Yeah, but they're still great options. And so in my research for the scripted video that I'm writing, which is Sony Saved Photography, I wanted to look back at when Sony bought Minolta or acquired Minolta. Minolta in 2013 was getting out of the because Konica Minolta was getting out of the photo business, and Sony already had like a 10 or 15% stake in the company because they tried to prop them up and keep them going, and then they ended up purchasing. Not purchasing, they acquired everything outright. I don't know how, if they paid for it or what they ended up doing, but they took that over. But that also included a stake in Tamron. So Sony owns a stake in Tamron as well. And so there's a lot of back end things that happened. And so when that video comes out, when we record it, it's going to be a pretty cool video that, Sony saved photography. And I go through this backstory of the history of how Sony got to where they got to in a matter of 10 years and how they did it quickly. And it's pretty fascinating how they push the industry forward. And if it wasn't for them, we might still be shooting DSLRs as our flagship cameras. Not that that would be a terrible thing, but we would have been missing out on all of this technology. I just feel like Sony, if there was no Sony, that Nikon and Canon really wouldn't have pushed the envelope on the mirrorless world and gone full throttle as much as they ended up having to do to catch up to Sony.
No, yeah, I totally agree. And to bring it back to the discussion about the third-party lenses, the new ones from Sigma, the one thing that blew my mind, the second I picked up that 500 5.6, I was like, oh my God, this is incredibly light and tiny. I mean, we're talking about almost the same size as a 70 to 200 G Master. Not as light, because it does come in at 3 pounds, but for a 500 5.6, it is very, very light and compact.
Yeah, it's tough to find who's buying that, but on Sony's front, there's no light prime options at all.
It's a very specific lens for sure. And, I know we're not about teleconverters, but there is a large audience out there like the birders and the wildlife shooters. This one, unfortunately, does not work with any teleconverters, whether it's Sony or Sigma's own. It will not communicate with the body. You can attach it, but it'll just be basically a manually focusing lens at that point if you have a teleconverter. Now, if you have the L mount, you can actually use the L mount teleconverters on there. Also, you're limited to the 15 frames per second. So that's a big deal for some of the shooters that are shooting with an A9 III or A1. Granted, that's, a smaller audience, but they're the two limitations if you buy a Sigma right now.
We'll see what happens. I mean, it's pretty fascinating, the 500, how small it is.
The main thing is you have so many other options. The question is, do you want a prime or do you want the versatility of a zoom? Because you have the 200 to 600 where you can buy that. It's a native G lens from Sony and it's $1,000 less. And it goes to 600 on top of that. Yeah, it's not going to be as sharp, maybe not as quick. The Sigma one is pretty damn fast, apparently. That's what you said.
I said it was the 500 just felt like it was the fastest focusing Sigma I've used because of those motors.
And you have the Sigma and Tamron 150 to 500 lenses. Actually, the Sigma, I think, is a 150 to 600. And they're, $1,400 and $1,500. You're saving half at that point.
Well,
so
it comes down to the balance in the hands, the versatility of a zoom.
You're paying for premium.
Want the quality?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a great travel safari lens, and I said that if you're going to be hiking, if you're going to be going somewhere where you need to save on space, and you want just a 500. Look, it's always going to be a debate, zooms versus primes, and I love primes all day long. It's certain situations where they don't come in handy, but then you start to realize how good the quality is on those primes for you personally. Yeah. No one else is going to be like, the 3D nature of this doesn't really match up to what it would be if you were using this lens. But personally, I like to use what I want to use.
I'm with you. If you have the time and the space, I'm prime all day. But if it's, unpredictable, like wildlife, the zoom is really nice to have. And then you have the Sigma fisheye, where same thing, there's a lot of other lenses to look at for less money. You have the 14 1.8, the Sony G Master, that is $1,600. You have the 14 1.4 from Sigma as well, that just recently came out. That's a rectilinear lens, that's $1,600. And then if you want the versatility of the zoom, you got the 14 to 24 for the E mount, that's like $1,400. I think on sale it's like $1,200. So it's a 2.8, granted, but it depends if you're doing like photojournalism versus astro. They're really pushing this for astro. It's just our thing is that it's just kind of boring. It's 180 degree field of view. You're just aiming it up, done, and you got the whole entire sky in there.
Yes, and I come back to the same thing I say about fisheyes all the time, is that 1% of your shoot should be the fisheye.
Yep.
You take the photos that you think you need to get with the fisheye, you throw it back in the bag, and you don't take it out again. The problem with the Sigma fisheye is the size of it compared to the Nikon 16-2.8 that I had from way back in the day. Takes up no space in a bag. So when I wanted to use a fisheye at a concert, I would put the fisheye on. I would use it. It took up no space, and I put it back in the bag. This 15-1.4 is massive.
That's the issue. You're 2 full stops wider than the 2.8. So, and the wider you go, just focal length, it's going to be a bigger bulbous element, especially with a big aperture like that, like 1.4. So yeah,
it's
it
still
is
a gorgeous lens,
massive lens for sure. But it's super limiting.
Gorgeous.
I personally don't prefer that bowed out, distorted look of a fisheye. I will take rectilinear all day and have that narrower field of view. I think like the field of view for 14, they were saying, is 114 degrees, where you're getting 180 with the fisheye. So yeah, you're going to lose a lot, but those edges are going to be extremely distorted anyway.
Sparingly is the name of the game with fisheye.
100%.
Is sparingly.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that would get fisheyes back in the day, and everything they would take was with a fisheye, but they're like, I get everything in. I was like, right. And you're
It's a snapshot.
You're just snapping a photo.
I always had a circular fisheye, the old Sigma 8mm, and I would use it. I think I probably used it like 7 times total ever for final photos, I should say. And it was only if I couldn't get, if the stage was so close to me that I had no other option. If the artist was like 3 feet in front of me, and what I would do is I would shoot it with the fisheye, but then I would crop in and transform it so it was only the center of the frame, so it looked like a rectilinear lens. But I would never use it as like a circular fisheye.
I was just sitting here thinking that for the past 4 years of being with either Sony or even more than that, Sony and Nikon, or Sony and Canon, that there hasn't been a time where I was like, damn, I wish I had a fisheye.
Well, you have the 10-20 now. I mean, that I would take all day over a lens like this.
I do. I have the 10-20. I used it in the airplane when I was in Kenya on Kenyan Air, and I liked it. So it's a love-hate with that lens, right? Because it's an f4, but then the 11-24, which is still behind me over my head right now, the person that said they wanted it never contacted me about buying it.
Oh.
So if someone wants my 11-24, that is, they still sell new for $2,700, by the way.
Wow.
I would be willing to sell that to someone for cash money. Text 313-710-9729 if you're interested in that lens, 313-710-9729. Say you're interested in the lens, and I'll probably be selling it for a reasonable amount of $5,000.
Double the price, because I will sign it.
It depends on a few things, but I think they're selling. I didn't actually look up what they're selling for used right now. I know new. I saw one on Canon's website as a refurb for like $2,600. I would not spend that amount on it. I think they should probably sell for $1,700-ish. $1,700. So if someone is looking for that, that's probably the range of where it's going to be.
And for an extra couple $100, you can pair it with a 5D Mark IV.
Or I'll just sign the box. How about that?
It'll be one of one. Limited edition.
It's that f4, man. That lens is great. The 11-24 was amazing.
I use that all the time in a concert setting.
It's still amazing. It's just the size difference between that and the 10-20. I guess subconsciously, it's like, oh shit, this is a much smaller lens. In lower light situations, that lens isn't great, in my opinion. The new one, the 10-20, but shit, the colors and tones in beautiful daylight is amazing.
And size-wise, I think it's because that 11-24 is almost optically perfect in camera because it had to deal with a DSLR, and there were no digital lens corrections for the most part back in the day. Now they're relying on digital lens correction to make these smaller, lighter lenses, and you apply that correction after the fact, and it looks and mimics a rectilinear lens. But yeah, you don't put lens correction on that 10-20, it's looking more like a fisheye almost.
Yeah, like a 9mm fisheye.
And that's why it's so small and light. So it's a trade-off.
It is a trade-off.
And just to wrap up the lens conversation, Sony also put out the 24-50 2.8G.
Garbage.
Which we didn't even review because we didn't feel the need to, because it's such an odd range. Like there's just so many other options out there for much less. Now, they directly compared it to the Tamron 20-40 during our presentation. They were really going after that one. But my thing is, if it was a 20-50 lens, all day. 20-50 2.8, cool. You're definitely going to beat out the 20-40 2.8 from Tamron. but that Tamron lens is also only $700. And again, it's 20 millimeters versus 24. So you're not only saving money, but you're also getting a much wider focal length. You also have the Sigma, you have a 24 to 70, just the standard 24 to 70 zoom range at 2.8. You can buy the Sigma Art for the same price and have a larger range. I don't know. I just feel like the 24 to 50 2.8 is a very limited lens. I get it. It's a native Sony lens. It's not a G Master. It's a G, but it might be great for like a gimbal. It's super small, super light, great for video work. That is a nice range for video, but for photos, I'd rather have that versatility of even like the Tamron 28 to 75 or the Sigma 28 to 70 contemporary. They're a couple $100 less and you're getting more of a range. Even the Sony 20 to 70, it's an f4, but that's the same price, and you're getting that full 20 to 70 range. It's just an odd lens to release, in my opinion.
It's just a very limiting lens, 24 to 50.
When there's so much more out there.
Well, I wasn't on that call because I was busy. I think I was at the bowling show.
Oh, yeah, you were.
What were they trying to say the reason for this lens? What, just the smallness, the compactness is a selling point?
Basically small and compact, and that the 24 to 50, based on the research, is the best focal range to be in that most people shoot in. But they were saying it's the first full frame zoom lens outside of a G Master to have a constant f2.8 aperture.
From Sony.
From Sony.
Yeah. But Tamron has a 28 to 75.
That's the thing, is all of the third-party competitors have 2.8s already, and they're 24 to 70s, or 28 to 75, or 28 to 70.
I think this is a lens that you should drop, kick, and punt. We didn't review this. We put it in a comparison video that's being edited that we'll put up against all of these other ones that we're talking about, because I can't see spending, is this $1,100?
So it's $1,100, which is the most expensive one out of all of the competitors. Or the other one that's on par with it is the 24 to 70 Art from Sigma, the DGDN. That's also $1,100, but you're gaining another 20 millimeters.
And it's larger, the Sigma, but
sure,
at that point,
it's not that much larger.
This is just one of those things. This comes back to the reason I guess I'm testing out some of these other Chinese manufacturers, is because as a beginner, you should never be steered in this direction of a 24 to 50 starting out if you're looking to do stills, to drop $1,100 on that. It just doesn't make sense. If I was a salesperson, I would not be pushing you in that direction. I'd be pushing you in the Sigma or Tamron direction when you're just starting out.
Now, I will say, during our NDA briefing, they were really hitting on like corner sharpness and optically better than the competition. And I do agree, it's probably the sharpest lens out of the bunch, but is it really that much of a difference where someone's going to noticeably see a difference? I don't think the average person buying a lens like this will be like focusing on critical sharpness.
Why do you think I don't shoot pictures of the brick wall anymore? And I don't shoot charts, and I don't care about MFT charts. I don't care about shit that isn't about actually making images, because at the end of the day, Steven, a good image is 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 a good image. No one fucking cares how you did it, what you shot it with. If you're looking at a winner image, it's a winner image. That's WINER. Winner image.
I agree. I do agree. Autofocus, I think, matters to get the image and the focal length. But I agree, the output, the final image, it doesn't matter what you shot it with as long as it looks good. But to get that final image is the point.
Yeah, sometimes. But I just, yes, we push gear. I talk about it. Yes, I want to use the best of the best with honor, sir, for me. But even if I didn't have to, again, I'm going to get great results. When I went to Paris, I took the R8. Fucking R8 is better than any other DSLR that was ever made. So that's a bad comparison, because that camera is so goddamn good. But I don't know. Like, hand me something. Anything modern day today made by anybody is going to give you better results than the greatest camera from 20 years ago.
I will say the R100 is pretty limiting. I think that's a super limiting camera. It's also only $500 or $400.
And guess who got great results at a Phillies game with a 100 to 400 f8 thing, 5.6 to f8?
Was that on an R100?
Yeah, man.
Oh wow.
I took it to the Phillies game because I wanted to get out. Baseball season's coming up again, which is exciting because I hate baseball, but I like having something to go shoot.
But I do agree. Like, you look at the lower end, more budget options from Sony and Nikon, like the Z30, Z50, the A6400, A6600, or no, actually even below that, A6100. They're pretty baller cameras for what they offer, this day and age. It's hard to get a bad shot with those kind of cameras.
You know why I can't count the Z30?
Why?
It doesn't have a viewfinder.
Oh, yeah. But I'm thinking of someone that's coming from a smartphone or something. Hey, at least it has a touchleast, unlike the R100.
Well, at least yes.
And it flips out.
I did write a script about how to properly hold a camera, though. And part of that script is like, because of the Z30s and you can't hold it the proper way, you're not going to get the best of you're going to miss certain things. And at the end of the day, though, if you get a winner shot, Steven, WINER, it doesn't matter. But I just think it's more challenging.
And just wrapping up this whole lens conversation, we did, like you said earlier, we're going to be putting out an overview of the best kind of 24-70 mid-range, budget-friendly zoom options for the Sony E-mount. And I think that'll be a great starter video for someone just picking up a $700 camera and trying to find out what the first lens should be. It's just the general overview, and then we kind of direct people towards the dedicated lens reviews to learn more if they want. And I think we'll do that a lot more moving forward with, the RF line, the Nikon Z line, stuff like that.
And the other piece of new gear that came out, Steven, do you want to go into detail about that?
The Fuji X100 6 or VI.
Wait, did you hear that? That's my penis hitting the top of the desk because I just got turned on.
You went from 6 to midnight.
6 to midnight, just like that.
Yeah, but that's the thing I don't understand. The nomenclature they have going on with the X100 lineup. It was the X100, then the X100S, which S stood for second, X100T, which T stood for third, X100F, F for fourth, and then they threw in a Roman numeral for the fifth, a V. It's just odd. Now it's the X100 and not the VI, even though they were calling the X100V the V. It's all over the place, in my opinion. But I think it should have been Roman numerals from day one, because I remember being like, what does the S stand for? Why is it called a T? Why is it an F?
For Fuji.
Yeah. Now the highlights for this camera, real quick, 40 megapixel sensor. I think it's the same one from the XH2, upgraded from the 26 megapixel from the X100V. Now has IBIS, that's another big thing, 6 stops of stabilization. It's big for street photography, slow shutter, panning, stuff like that. 6.2K video now at 30 frames per second, but it does come with a caveat. It is cropped, same with 4K 60 because of that 40 megapixel sensor. But 4K 30 will be full frame. You have a phone call, it looks like?
I have a phone call from Alan's camera.
Oh.
It's Brandon. Brandon.
Hey, bud.
Hey, why are you calling me during the show?
You're recording.
Yeah.
Hey.
You're being recorded. Wait, this is I got to tell you we're recording
It's
or I'll get
illegal
sued.
if you don't tell them.
All right, cool. Well, I won't take long. I got one of the pre-release X100. I don't know, is it 6 or VI? I got one
there
of
it
the
is.
black cameras for you to review.
Oh, I wanted the gray one, not the black one.
Good luck, dude. Use spray paint. But yeah, they're not for sale until the 28th, but I got a pre-release camera for you to review. So it's here.
All right. I'll come and get it maybe today.
Man. All right. Sounds great.
Thanks, Brandon.
All right.
Enjoy
Bye.
the show, everybody. Bye. Well, that's good timing.
That's perfect timing. And he happened to call while we're talking about the Fuji. And notice what he said.
Did.
He's like, is it the VI or is it the 6? See?
Yeah. No, he did. Now, the reason I reached out to Brandon to get this to get this camera is Fuji didn't let I didn't even get a press release from Fuji this time.
Oh, it's so weird.
But I also heard that some people are in Japan. They were taken to Japan by Fuji. I reached out to Fuji. I haven't heard back yet. I'm trying to get a conversation going with Fuji.
So weird.
Yeah, I'm still trying because. Well, I mean,
you don't think it's because every chance you get to take a shot at Fuji, you take a shot?
Not really,
in the
Steven.
public sphere.
No, because when you're unjustly blacklisted for 8 years.
I'm telling you, man, it's because of the XH1 review. Because we
which
hit
was a
on
great review.
The AF a little bit. Like it was 90% of a positive review, and
more
just
than
because
that.
we said a couple negative things, they basically blacklisted us. Yeah.
Which is so short-sighted, which is so beyond short-sighted. So I'm trying to have a conversation with Japan to you know what that would sound like, but I'm trying to figure out to get them on the phone because I think they have a new marketing person and I would love to talk to them because I used the GFX 100 at the Philly for baseball. I haven't made that video yet. I was happy with the results. And yeah, it was challenging. And yes, 2 weeks later, they came out with a new version of the camera, but they've done great things. Like I want to do this Polaroid versus Instax video, which we can do. We don't need them to do. That's going to be very favorable to Instax, as in don't ever buy a Polaroid instant camera at all today because they're garbage. But I reached out to Brandon so that I could get this camera to test, and then I'm going to use it. And then I think he can put it up for sale at the store, the one that I went to test out. But I want to try to use this damn camera.
Does he normally get pre-release cameras?
No, I don't know. That might be something different that that Fuji is doing. Huh. But there's no reason that we as a YouTube channel should not be getting. I mean, look, if Nikon sends me a $20,000 package of gear in the mail because I asked for it, there's kind of no reason why the Fujis of the world shouldn't follow suit to get the publicity. It's not like I'm going to shit all over this camera.
Basically what you just said is, if I ask for it, you better give it to me. Do you know who I am?
That's basically a way of saying it, Steven. But look, I don't keep the Nikon gear.
Do you think Fuji just has a giant list, like a blacklisted?
No, they got a list. They got a list.
And it's just like one name, Jared Polin on there.
Don't give this guy
they
cameras.
Have like darts thrown at the wall on the name.
He said one thing bad in a video 8 years ago. I don't know what it is. I think they're missing out. Because the issue is...
We would cover them a lot more. We did a bunch of lens reviews too. They gave us like 4 or 5 lenses back in the day. I thought we did a decent job, but you shit on the 90 millimeter. I remember that.
One lens.
Yeah.
That couldn't focus for its life because it was so slow, and was true. I've also heard that I'm not the only person they've done this to, that if you don't say super positive things all the time,
yes,
it's not good, which is just the worst thing to do. So anyway... If Photo News Fix this week, I get a call from Sony PR in the video.
What do they say?
I can't tell you. You're going to have to watch it. If you haven't watched it, I get a phone call when I'm talking about this camera.
Oh, God.
I'm using reverse psychology in the video, basically. I'm like, oh, you're going to send me this? That's great. I can't wait to review it. That's what we want.
All positive comments. We love Fuji.
I will say I did buy a Fuji X100 back in the day because Richie is a big Fuji fan.
Wasn't it the third one, right? T?
It may have been the second one.
I thought it was the X100T.
I think I returned it within a couple of days. I just didn't like, well, one, the autofocus was just really bad. It was hard to shoot manual, so I put it on aperture priority, which at the time was what Zach Arias made videos, because he was a big Fuji ambassador at the time, and I was like, maybe I'll take this camera around and I'll enjoy shooting it, and I did not enjoy shooting it. It didn't feel good in the hands. The focus was really bad, and it was a smaller sensor, so when I shot at higher ISOs, it looked terrible. But that hybrid viewfinder was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen in a camera.
I do like that, yeah.
I think that is awesome, that it's an optical viewfinder that looks kind of like having Apple goggles, Apple Vision Pro on, because you can have it where it has an overlay while you see the real world, or you could just go right to the EVF.
Yep.
My issue with these cameras is that they're adding every bell and whistle.
See, I don't mind that.
I do.
Why?
I do. I don't think it should be shooting 20 frames a second. If I wanted a camera to shoot 20 frames a second, I would grab a real quote-unquote camera. I would grab a real camera because that's what that camera, I would want to use something that if I needed 20 frames a second. I envision this camera.
So you're annoyed that they give you more features.
I'm annoyed that they give you more. I'm annoyed that they talk about 6.2K resolution of video as if I want this camera to shoot video. That's not my intention. I don't care. It's also like that project that's going on where you fund it, and that back, the digital back for cameras that I guess I did back that project and I never set it up, where you would get a digital back for a film camera. It's called Welcome Back, or it's called I'm Back. That's what it's called. And they are focused on, they made something new that looks like a roll of film that you put in the back of the camera that's a really unique, and it uses like micro four thirds. The problem is they're like, we're adding video features and we're adding, no, that shouldn't be what that camera does. What that sensor does. What that technology should do is it should allow you to take pictures. It should just allow you to take pictures. It shouldn't focus on making video quality. But if I wanted to do that, I would buy a real camera. I'm not saying it's not a real camera. I know, I know, Steven.
You got to understand, though, people buying this, though, this might be the only camera they have. Like, I have a friend that has the XT3, and that is his only camera that he can really afford. So he uses it for everything, video, photo, everything in between. That is his workhorse. You know, I know what you're saying. If this is like just a street travel camera for people that already have a whole setup of either Fuji, Nikon, Canon, whatever it may be. But there's a lot of people that don't have that. And I don't know. I think I'd rather have more. Why not?
I mean, that statement makes sense from a person who's buying one camera. It wouldn't be the camera that I recommend as your first camera. We're going to make a comparison video putting the, what is this thing, X100 against an R3, which is less expensive. Sorry. An R8. An R8 that's less expensive.
Oh, okay.
You have the A7C, the A7C2, which I consider to be more functional full-frame cameras.
Granted, the A7C2 is $500 more.
Yes, and then you have to put a lens on it.
Yeah, and you got to. Yeah, I'd prefer personally an A7C2 and putting a compact like 35-1.4 on there, because this does have a 23 mil f2 lens. That's a 35 equivalent. I think Sony, what they need to do is come back out with the successor for the R1R. You know, they had the Mark II. Where's the Mark III at? Because that's basically a Fuji X100, but on steroids, full frame. Now it lacked IBIS and stuff like that, but
that's more like a Q3.
That's more of a, because that was a $4,000 camera, something like that.
It was an expensive camera, but you're thinking is more like a Leica, which I still want to put the Leica. I have to get the Leica. I want to get a Q3 because I want to go shoot it. Like, I might go next week when you're not here. Now that I've got this camera, I might just fly to Paris for a day. I'm not going to fly to Paris for a day, but maybe I'll just go to Paris town. Right? Is that like Chinatown? Do we have a Paris section of town? We do. It's called Park on Rittenhouse. There's one French
French
restaurant again. I'll be like, ho, I'm here to drink
oui.
We'll go to Paris.
Where's the cheese board?
Cause fromage! It's fromage, goddammit! I'm going to go pick this camera up from Brandon. Yes, it has a lot of bells and whistles. Good on Fuji. People love this camera. Evidence of that is that Petapixel's video has over 220,000 views on this video.
And the fact that the X105V, whatever you want to call it, was sold out for quite some time. You know, it was a hard to get camera.
I mean, it's $1,600.
And it was so good that they really didn't change much, minus the introduction of IBIS and new sensor. But the body itself is essentially the same exact body. I still am not a fan of like the tiny joystick and stuff like that. But
no, still terrible.
It's also got like the new film simulation modes from the newer Fujis.
Oh, film simulators.
And updated AF for you, like the subject detection modes and all of that. 11 frames per second mechanical, 20 electronic. That's, I think, all the same. But the issue for me is that they still have that UHS-1 SD card slot, and you're pushing out 40 megapixel files at 11 frames per second. That's gonna fill up fast. You know, that's
still UHS-1
hit hard. UHS-1.
How could they not update that?
I don't know. I mean, UHS-1. I can't even remember the last camera that had UHS-1.
Phone call. Oh, it's Fuji PR. Daniela, how are you? Oh, you stuck with the UHS-1 card because that's all that camera needs? Oh, yeah. That makes a lot of sense, Daniela. Update everything else, but don't update that memory card. But really, give it 6.2K video because we want to be...
I'm actually surprised the UHS-1 can even handle 6.2K video at 30 frames per second. The data rate.
Well, the thing that gets me is, like, I watch some of the people talk about this camera, and they're like, oh, you won't be able to do internal ProRes. I'm like... Please, guys, once again, this isn't the camera you're buying for that. And I understand your statement that it's a one camera for people, but this is not the camera it doesn't have versatility. You're spending $1,600 and you're throwing this camera away when it's done. You're not buying an R8 and buying glass and stuff that you grow with. I've always been... My goal, I guess, with the YouTube has always been about being able to build your tech as a photographer, building up your from the basic lenses. Yep. Build up your arsenal over time, not buy something that will be obsoleted and then just gone because you can't upgrade it or update it. But I will go over after lunch to drive up, and I guess I'll go pick that up today, get it set up. I'm trying to get out to do a bunch of shoots next week as the weather gets nicer. I said I'm going to go shoot that lacrosse game. There's some basketball to shoot, and I want to use the Viltrox lenses at the basketball on the Sony cameras. And that also means that I could take the Fuji with me and maybe just do a day trip. Maybe I'll go to like, I was going to say like New Hope. Maybe I should go to like Peddler's Village, or I don't want to go to New York.
Yeah, just make sure you take 6.2K video with the Fuji.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Steven. All right, any other gear stuff?
That's it for the most part. 3 new lenses and a new Fuji X100 VI or 6, however you want to say it.
I want to give Leica a shout out there, though. We were talking about this yesterday. Is like maybe Leica has it right in the lowest sense of the right word. They have it right by taking out an LCD on a camera to force people to shoot stills, right? Just to focus. And that's my whole thing, is like, if I want to go back and I want to shoot, I just want to dumb it down as much as possible. I don't personally want the bells and whistles.
The issue with Leica is it's not a dumbed down price, is they charge you out the wazoo for it, $6,000 for like an entry level Leica or whatever it is. And, they give you minimal features, where Fuji's the opposite. They're charging you $1,600 and jam packing a bunch of features into a small camera like this. So that's my issue. I could see if the Fuji took out, it gave you bare bones, minimal features because they're only charging $1,600, but Leica's another story.
Look, I still think $1,600 is very expensive for what that camera is. I do. I actually think that's expensive for a crop sensor camera with a fixed lens.
Were they always $1,600 when you bought like the X100?
Probably $1,200 back then, but with the time change, that was like 7 years ago. That was a long time ago. Yeah. But Richie's super excited because Richie likes this, but
he has like every Fuji, right?
He went with the 50 megapixel GFX.
The medium format. Well, supposed medium format.
Yeah, I think he's dumping anything lower end. But he wants he wants this camera, but he wants to stick with the higher stuff because he likes the quality of it, which I don't blame him. The Fujis, I just like for me, I get stressed out with just trying to do gear reviews and all this stuff. And every once in a while, just dumbing things down to the very basics, where I just go out and just enjoy shooting, which doesn't happen often. Like just the challenge, like using the Fuji is a challenge, or using a basic starter camera is a challenge, where maybe I'm not trying to make content from it fully. I always make content. And what I'm getting at is my Graflex camera is ready to go pick up in Reading tomorrow. That is the 4x5. It's a 1948 roughly edition camera, so made in 1948. And the lens that I got on there is called an Aero Ektar, not Aero Eckert, an Aero Ektar lens. It is a 178 millimeter f2.5, which in 35 millimeter equivalents is a 50 millimeter. And think of the depth of field is an f1.
Wow.
Now, the light gathering is still 2.5, but the depth of field feel of it is 1.0.
I mean, when you're at 1, you get such a dreamy look to your images.
Did you see the samples I sent you?
I did. And
guys,
they are pretty incredible.
Google Aero Ektar samples, and there's like a guy on Flickr that has a bunch of really nice shots.
With that lens setup, I guess the bokeh is just such a swirly nice. It reminds me of that one lens. What's that old school lens? That gold one.
The gold one? Oh yeah, I remember the Russian lens.
Yeah, that one. It reminds me of that. It's a very circular, like bokeh background, dreamy.
Yeah. Well, so the purists in the 4x5 and large format world, I talked to one kid who's like the go-to. Actually, let me give him a shout out because he was very helpful. Let me give everybody a shout out there. We've got Retro Photo in Reading, so it's retrophoto_Reading. That is a place that develops film from people all over the country and just specializes in film cameras. Just a billion of them. The kid's been collecting them for like 15 or 20 years. He would just buy lots of them.
Wow.
600 of this and 500 of this. So if you need something, he's got it. He's the guy for that. But I talked to, what's this kid's name? Actual Sam Dole, Dole. he does 8x10 stuff. He did stuff for Yellowstone, the TV show, because they wanted someone who does old school stuff. But he was saying that this lens he feels that it's been overdone, and it's like everybody that gets it, they overdo the look. And I'm like, well, the difference is I haven't used it yet for me. So I look at it as I want to get a certain look. And if I'm going to go out and do it, I want to see how the results are going to be. So this lens is radioactive. Actually radioactive. It's got radioactive isotopes. It's an old naval lens from the 1940s. So I'll keep it somewhere else.
Keep it close to the chest.
No, keep it close to the balls, Steven.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm going to take it to the Phillies game. I'll probably go to Chicago. I should go up to Fenway Park. Any of the parks that these cameras would have been used in back in the day, there's only two. It's Fenway and it's Wrigley Field are the only two parks.
So don't you think you're going to have kind of an issue with like focusing?
Focus?
Yeah.
So I'm going to use a tripod.
I think you need to.
I have to, because I have to lock the focus in with the on the ground glass. And
I mean, even them breathing is going to throw out the depth of field is going to be so.
I have to do some tests. And with that, like I ordered a box of 25 sheets of 100 ISO ASA 4x5 sheet film, black and white, and
It's
I have to
ISO and
decide, ASA. I have to decide if I'm going to develop it myself upstairs. Right? There is a dark room 5 minutes from here, by the way, that you can. It's a community dark room that I can get access to.
Community?
So
wow.
Yeah, I just pay a membership or something. I have to see if they have chemicals or I need to mix my own. It's going to be less expensive to mix my own and get a tank to do. I could do 6 sheets at a time. There is a place around the corner that does it, Indie Photo, but it's $5 a sheet to process.
Oh, I hope you turn into a film photographer after all the shit you said over the years.
Steven, I'm not turning into a film photographer. The reason I went 4x5 is not every hipster out there is going to ever go shoot 4x5. They're going to grab their 35 fucking Ricoh cameras, Uncle Rico, and take pictures.
But you're going to take pictures and then scan them and put them on the internet, right?
No, the way that I plan on doing it is I'm going to take the negatives and I'm going to take a photo of the negative and show the entire frame that way. And reverse it and then share it. But I don't think I'm going to scan it. We do have a scanner. Epson sent me a scanner years ago
isn't it like in a box still?
Unless I got rid of it. You know what I did?
Actually, you might have given it away.
I know who I gave it to.
Yeah.
He's probably still has it. It's the guy. So Newtown camera. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Jim at Newtown Camera still has my beta digital
Give it back,
tape
Jim.
deck. No, he uses it more, and I wanted someone to use it. So yeah, he still has it. So I don't know how I'm going to scan. Or I think it's just better to take a 50 megapixel picture. Either use the Nikon and the Plena 135 to do it, or use the A1 and a 51.2. You know, you're not going to shoot it at 1.2, but those are the sharpest lenses at 50 megapixels.
I would go macro.
Oh, you always shoot copy prints with a 50 millimeter. Always.
Oh.
Yeah, you always do it with the 50.
Maybe I'm thinking like slides or something.
Well, yeah, slides I use the 60 micro. That is one Nikon lens I kept with the adapter. I kept the slide adapter for the 60 millimeter lens so I can copy slides in the future. But anyway, I have to go pick up that camera. It has the 178 millimeter f2 Aero Ektar. Look up Aero Ektar because it is pretty damn crazy what that lens looks like, and it's big. They have to retrofit it onto a special board to fit it into the camera. I think the lens is like the one I'm getting is like $700 or $800, and it's not even a good version of it. Like they can go for like $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 for that piece of glass.
Wow.
Because it's an old aerial lens that the Navy would have used. I'm going to give it a shot. I talked to one of the Phillies about it, and he was cool with doing a portrait. So I just got to do some tests out here.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of testing.
Anyway, next week, Steven, to wrap this up, is going to be away. I've got something to talk about. There is an article. It was written in a forum about me, and I'm going to read the article and give you live comments as I read the article in rebuttal to the person that wrote this, and then read the comments too, because there's comments that go both ways.
I actually read a lot of the comments. They weren't that bad for once.
No, because people were being like commonsensical in the comments about the person who wrote it, that took the time to write a hate piece on me, which is great. So I feel like I want to read that, and I will do that, because I'm going to probably fly solo unless I decide to have a guest on. If I do have a guest on, you guys will hear it, but I don't know yet. So Steven, get ready to fly to Florida.
Oh God, fingers crossed, man.
Are you gonna be one of those parents that you shouldn't do this, because I think it's really stupid. But the parents that get on the plane when the first time their kid's flying and they hand out goodie bags to people next to them. Let me just say this. I do not get upset at parents, and I guess I can understand their trepidation and the fear that they're the one who has the kid making the noise. But with today's noise canceling headphones and on just about every type of flight, it's not that big of a deal. We all were children and babies once. We've all flown. We've all dealt with it. If you are an asshole and you can't handle a 2-hour flight and maybe there's a crying baby, put in noise cancellation headphones. Shut the fuck up. They're a baby. They'll grow up. We all were there. Don't make a big deal out of it. Do everything you can to help that mother or father if you can. I always make faces at little kids. I play hide and seek with them. Now, if they're going to kick my seat because they're 4, I'm going to fucking punch them in the face.
That's when it gets annoying, when they're kicking your seat and the parents do nothing about it and just let them do whatever they want. At
that point, it's like, you know what? Get a handle on your damn kid.
Exactly.
Because if I acted up on an airplane at that age,
you're getting gripped up.
My dad's calling and using his newly found Spanish to say, what? Tuchus. It's called a tuchus in Yiddish.
Tuchus.
It's a can I tell you one more story? I got in trouble. I'm like 7 years old. I don't know how old I am. 6, 7. Maybe 7. I get in trouble at home. And you know, what do your parents do when you get in trouble? They send you to your room and tell you to turn out the lights. I don't know why turning out the lights was why was turning out the lights such a punishment?
Like,
probably because
now?
I was afraid of the dark. But it's like, go to your room. I don't know what I did. Maybe I was cursing. No, my mom once squeezed a bottle of soap in my mouth for cursing. And I'm like, I learned it from you, fucking A. No,
I feel like you were a cursing family, no?
Yeah, probably.
We weren't, I'll tell you that.
I go up, get sent to my room, and I think my mom was going to probably like smack us or something, which really they didn't really do. But I think I heard her coming upstairs, and I put like the Little Engine That Could hardback book in my pants.
What, did you think she was going to hit you in the nuts?
No, in the back of my pants to protect my butt. So that when she smacked me, she hit the book and thought it was funny. Like, that's funny. That's funny.
Did they bust out like a wooden spoon or a belt or any of that, or was it just the hand?
We never got the belt. We never got the spoon.
We never did either. Yeah.
We
I had friends that did, though.
We had the threat of violence. We rarely got smacked. I mean, I think
I've
they smacked you in your butt
like twice, I think.
You deserved it.
Yeah, I definitely did.
I don't know about slapping kids these days. I don't think it really serves a purpose. I think there's other ways. I don't think I'm going to hit a kid if I have one.
You say that now.
I think that it really comes down to, you little piece of shit. No, the ultimate punishment for me from my dad, well, 1, you can't watch the Flyers or you can't watch TV. And so 2 was, you're not going to go to another Flyers game unless you get your grades up. And back in the day, that affected me.
This day and age, it would be no iPad for you or no internet or something like that.
No, you take away video games for kids.
It's
not fair. You take away my video. Shut up, you fucking dick.
I think it depends on the age. But yeah, internet in general. Because video too, like video games, a lot of it's internet.
My brother has kids, right? And they have fear in their face. They'll never get hit. But they were put in the corner, as I call it, the cozy corner, to sit down and time. They understand repercussions, and I think parents need to teach their kids freaking cussions.
I agree. I mean, what always hit me hard was when they would say
your parents.
No. You done? What always affected me was the whole, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. That really hit me hard when I would do something and disappoint my parents. Because it's like,
I still love you. I still love you, but I hate you.
I'm deeply disappointed in you. It's like, that would get me.
All right, guys. So don't look for Steven next week. You'll have me doing a show, and that's it. Anything you want to say before you go, Steven?
No, just wish me luck on the plane. Hopefully there's no screaming and crying for 2 straight hours. But I was not about to make 200 goodie bags and hand them out throughout the plane.
People are so weird. Like, I'm not, and if you get offended by a baby crying, or if you don't have empathy for the parents that are trying to deal with that newborn, but what Steven said, if it's that 4-year-old and that 5-year-old and they're
story.
being assholes, then don't let that kid walk
kid
all
in
over
the face.
you.
What?
All right. Bye, everybody. Episode 90, by the way.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Episode 90. Jared, PolinFrontosPhoto.com. See ya. Bye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Later.
See you in Disney.